Hey, Pat, how you doing? It's Jeremy.
Sorry, Jeremy, I was on the phone with Howard right now. So
All good, man. I know about multitasking.
oh yeah, we were just talking about the no parking signs, so in the area of Portola Road. So
How you doing?
good. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
You know, everything opening back up is like it's like a madhouse here because we got all the. When you guys had your events recently, we have like the Half Moon Bay Festival, we have Arts and Wine Festival, we have all kinds of stuff. So it's
Yeah, everything's happening at once. Yeah, I mean, it's really the fall of, well, I mean, I don't know if it's how real it is or not, but post-COVID, right? COVID's over. Let's do everything right now.
Yeah.
The thing that I'm noticing is how few people are around, actually.
it's funny. I was just talking to Howard about that. And so you'll see today in our number, one of the numbers I sent you guys already, you'll see that the citation numbers are way down. The parking citation numbers, but your moving citations are going up.
Right. Right.
So direct reflection, people are driving around doing stuff, but not parking and going for walks or bicycling.
Right. They're just gonna rush.
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't say this, but we did our speed survey and we found some results that didn't make us happy. We probably will do another one.
Okay.
They did show on the main arterials, increases in speed, and that's kind of the last thing we want is to see those speed limits go up. So we're gonna do another round.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll let you know.
Yeah, sounds good. I know the all the deputies out there itching to help out, to control the speed, make sure it's safe, and provide enforcement when needed. So
Yeah.
you guys do any big events for Halloween or anything like that?
For what?
For Halloween?
No, not in Portola Valley. We do nothing the town does. A street or two will typically close the road. So we see like up on Shawnee, usually a road closed so people can walk around. Sometimes there's one in the Corner Madera area. We've done that in the past, but that's really locally driven, and we just give out barricades for for a couple hours in the evening, and it's usually pretty fun. We haven't, I don't think we've needed the SO for anything in the past on that. But yeah, nothing big, but I'm sure you're getting other places like Millbrae and St. Carlos, right?
Yeah, they have plenty of stuff going on there. So
yeah, I can dig it. Yeah, Deb and I, my wife and I moved about a year ago. We moved across the city, and now we're off of Kentfield, where the Jack in the Box is.
yeah.
And our old neighborhood, we saw a little bit of traffic for Halloween, but boy, this year we're expecting it to be gangbusters around here. It just looks like it's the thing to do.
Yep.
So that's going to be kind of fun to do that. Hand out candy. I had my next door neighbor where I used to live. He sold stuff on eBay, and he came across a box with like 300 Hot Wheels. So we handed those out one year for Halloween. Boy, that was a hit.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. Kids loved it.
I bet.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So
Yeah. Well, cool. Morning, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good.
Patrick will share this with the group, but he was saying that in the numbers that he'll talk about for August, just how odd they look. You were seeing an increase in moving violations, but fewer parking violations. And just 1 month doesn't necessarily show a statistic, but just weird. It's probably got something to do with fewer people being around.
Yeah.
And it
More room on the road to go fast and fewer people parking on Windy Hill.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Ed.
morning.
Hi, Jeremy. Good morning, Craig.
Morning.
Hi, Angela. Hey, Howard.
Good morning,
Oh,
everyone.
morning, Howard. Hey. Howard, I got your email, but I couldn't open the attachment format that it had for the citations.
This is Jeremy, Ed, Patrick's here, so he can talk about it. And Patrick, if you want to pull those up and
Oh
share.
yeah, I see you there. Thank you. That'd be great. At the appropriate juncture. Brilliant. Okay. Just wait for some more of our committee members to join, and then we can begin. How's everybody doing?
Good. Good.
At least I'm enjoying it being enjoying that it's cooling off. So
Yeah, my wife and I moved last year to a new place, and the house has incredibly odd swings between hot and cold, and we're starting to feel that chill in the house again, which is quite nice because the house got pretty hot this summer. So we're enjoying it.
yeah, our place is a lot of flat roof, and we don't have an air conditioning in it, so it gets when it gets hot, it gets pretty warm.
Do you have you must have decent tree coverage though, right?
We do a little, but some of that it depends on the time of day, quite significantly.
Yeah, we had at my old place, we had a redwood tree out front in the afternoon. It did a heck of a job protecting the house and keeping it cool, but like a lot of redwoods in the flats, they die, so they came down, and boy, that was
yeah. I think that's another side benefit of one room we have is underneath the solar array that we've got on the top there, and that makes a big difference too. So there's another side benefit to solar. It actually reduces the heat load on your house.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially if there's an airspace beneath it.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a lot of simple physics we could do to make houses a lot more efficient in terms of not absorbing heat when you don't want them to.
Yeah.
And if you got those ideas, I'd love to hear them, because we're always looking for things to do across the board, put in our climate action plan, put in your zoning code, whatever. So if you got some thoughts, let's talk. Love to hear it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I'm here, but I have two webcams and neither of them seem to be working. I think the whole hub that they're plugged into has failed.
Oh dear. Well, we can hear you, so that we've got.
Yeah, so I can hear you, but I just, I normally have two webcams, and I can choose either of them, and the whole hub has failed as far as I can see. So maybe I need a new one.
Ed, did you hear from other members? Were they planning on being here today?
I did not hear anything. I presume they received their agenda packets, but
Yeah, I thought so too. They're normally pretty reliable.
so let's give people another couple of minutes.
Yeah.
It's frustrating if we have to abandon meetings, but
Oh,
it also feels silly having to go around chasing everybody as well, which is kind of.
well, I met with Pat and she was hoping to be here.
Oh, good. She's usually pretty good.
Yeah, we only need one more for quorum, I think. So
Yeah, she was hoping to present some things.
Kevin didn't say anything, but he usually tells me if he can't make it.
And Gary's been at the last couple of meetings, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Not Gary Nielsen, Gary Haynes.
Gary Haynes, yeah.
Gary Nielsen's everywhere.
Ed, I'm here, Gary Haynes.
Oh, Gary, thank you.
I'm here. I'm at work, but I got you tuned in.
Excellent. Does that give us a quorum? What's our charter?
You're
Charter
good.
is
3 of 5.
Yep.
Three of 5. Is it 5? Okay, I thought it was 7. We reduced it to 5.
According to your masthead, you have 5, so I'll go with that for today.
but I think we reduced all of the committees that where we now basically flex people up and down as they add and remove members as necessary, so that it makes it easier to have a quorum.
Oh, okay, brilliant. That works. In which case, let's convene the meeting. I'll call everything to order, and let's begin with our roll call. I'm Ed Holland, I'm chair.
I'm Angela Hay.
Gary Haynes.
there we are. Okay. Thank you. I see we have at least one resident joining us. I think you'll recognize that as Caroline's number. If anybody has any communications not on the agenda, now is the time that you can raise a hand and take a couple of minutes to say what you have to say, please. Does anybody have anything to address the committee that's not on the agenda? Nope. Okay. Thank you. In which case, unless any committee members have anything to add to non-agenda items, we'll carry on to our approval of the last meeting's minutes. That was the September 7th meeting. I think there was one comment about, I think it was from Howard about who was locating the speed trailer. Is that correct, Howard?
Yeah, it says Howard and Kevin moved the speed trailer from Willow Commons to near Roberts. I didn't move the speed trailer. I know that Kevin moved it, or Gary. So, and then
Yes, there was two of us, I think.
subsequently, the Willow Commons construction site complained that the radar was close to their driveway, so the crew moved it out of the vicinity of their driveway.
Okay.
So it was originally Gary and Kevin moved it. Is that what it was?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, we placed it.
Okay. Hey, guys, I gotta go. We ran over a kitten over here, so I gotta go.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no. Okay, who does that leave us with? Is that,
That was Jeremy, so we still have a quorum.
okay, we still have a quorum. Good. Oh. I think the road
It's all a
accident
bit.
during a safety meeting is rather odd. Moving, so there are no other items related to the approval of the minutes. I read them as reasonably usually accurate. Thank you, Angela. Please let's move on to our sheriff's report and Patrick.
So are we going to vote to approve them with
Oh,
the,
we do. We have to vote, don't we? So I move that we approve the minutes
with the modification?
with the modification regarding the speed trailer.
So I
Approve.
second.
Thank
And
you,
I
Rafi.
approve.
All right, thank you, everyone. So I think that was Gary and Angela
Yes.
seconded. Craig approves. Thank you.
Correct.
Our sheriff's report, please, Mr. Taylor, Officer Taylor.
Yeah, so we had two acts, so we still do the 2 months prior. So now we're in August according to the normal when we do them. So right now, August, we had 2 accidents. One, which was on the 25th, was basically just somebody going too fast down a hill on Horseshoe Bend and Coal Mine View, and that was just going too fast and lost control and didn't make the turn. The other one was Portola and Westbridge, and similar incident, just going too fast and punching the stop sign. But the only issue there was they failed to yield, and it was a hit and run, so they left. I don't have any follow up on that yet. If that's been resolved, if they found the driver, I'm gonna do some more looking into that. But as of the report this morning, there's no suspect information on it. So
Yes, please. Was that an injury accident?
no, none of these are injury accidents. We have none. And in comparison to last year, there's only 1 accident last year, which kind of goes into my citation information. And I was just talking about with Howard was our moving citations are up as of the last few months. You can kind of see in July the numbers gone up, and then in August the numbers have gone up for moving citations, but our parking citations are way down. And I believe that's, and just like we discussed, I think, but prior to the meeting, we were talking about it could be a result of people starting to go back to gyms and stuff like that. It's first fall since COVID.
Can you say what the numbers are, please?
Yes, please. We were not able to read the report.
Sorry,
it came in a format that I couldn't open. So
I can send them back, I guess. So moving citations were 17 for August. Parking citations were 10. And in comparison to July, the moving citations were 13 in July and parking citations were 46 in July. So you see a pretty swift downturn of parking citations because of, I think it's because of people not using Windy Hill to go hike as much.
That's a typical pattern for the warmer weather of August and all those things, and people are out of town. So we see a pretty repeated cyclic pattern based on the nice times of year. With 2 peaks in sort of one in the nice part of spring and then one in the cooler but not wet part of the autumn. So yeah.
I was just checking, is Gary on, Nielsen?
Yeah,
Hey Gary, so I got clearance on that from my lieutenant that we can start helping with that trailer again.
good. Yeah, I saw that.
So let us know when and where you want to move it. You guys give us a date and we'll move it to where a pace you guys think is good for you guys.
Okay, yeah. Good.
Oh, that's good. Thank you very much. Yeah, let's please note that, Angela. So you're saying that the sheriff's department is willing to help with moving the trailer and locating, is that right?
Yeah, when I first started here, we used to do it all the time with Rick Brooker and Eric Sakuma. And then now we haven't done it for a while, I think because of past command. And then so once you guys got the new vehicle and everything like that, they're less worried about the liability and stuff. So
Okay, that'll be good. I'll take care of the scrolling sign and that sort of thing.
okay.
Right. Thank you.
We'll just
Thank
get
you.
together on where it goes.
Sounds good.
Thank you for your efforts on that. That's appreciated. I don't know, does anyone have any particular items of note to bring up with the sheriff's office at this time?
There is this coming weekend is the Day of the Horse in Woodside. I see they've already got their signs up at Mountain Home and Portola roads. I don't know whether it would be appropriate to just put something on our scrolling sign, heads up in drivers going to Woodside or something because they do have a trail ride.
That's what I'm thinking about. Thank you, Gary. I don't have anything further. I know we've got a meeting in town coming up on review of the sort of sheriff's department element. Is that correct? Craig, could you give us any more insight on that? I know Carrie sent a general message out to the town on the consultation for the next sort of housing security and whatever it is. It's not
Yes,
an element, but that was the general wording.
Yep, you have it on agenda item 6.
Yes, I do. That's correct. Okay.
I'm over here.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for joining. You going back to school?
What?
You're back to school?
Yeah, I have first period class right now. I'm teaching.
Okay. Yes, going back to that. Thank you, Craig. That's helpful. So the October 26th, and that's a general public meeting. Is that correct, Craig?
Yes, it will be, and I believe that is at our council meeting on the 26th. This is the 26th date, and I think Jeremy was asking for some committees, including BPTS, to throw in any ideas. There was a post I saw from Carrie to PV Forum, I believe yesterday, also soliciting input. So our current contract with the sheriff's department has been running for the last 4.5 years, and it expires at the end of June of next year, at the end of our fiscal year. So we are beginning discussions with the sheriff's department on renewal of that contract for the next time period. Previous to the current contract, I think we were on 3-year renewals, and then we went to a 5-year renewal with this latest one. So this time around, obviously, we're going to be having a new sheriff starting in January, and we've had some preliminary discussions with her about what she's interested in looking at with the contract. Last time we used to have 2 contracts. We had a basic contract and a supplemental, so we integrated those 2 last time around. And this time around, we're talking with the incoming sheriff about whether we want to change, what it means, what policing means in Portola Valley, what the community's needs are, what maybe we have too much of, what we might have too little of, and what exactly that means. It's not in the scope of things a huge contract, as we all know. It's essentially 1.5 deputies to 2 deputies, plus management and access to detective services and things like that. So we just wanted to open up the discussion to see if the public had any thoughts on how policing is done in Portola Valley, and whether there's anything we wanted to change structurally in the contract, or what mix of services, expectations, what kinds of things people can have, whether it would be nice to have office hours essentially of some kind at the substation where people can walk in and say, hey, I've got this concern, and that sort of thing. So just generally opening it up and saying, what do people want from police services in Portola Valley?
Thank you. That's a very good rundown.
And I think, this committee obviously has a lot of interaction with the sheriff's office and with a sort of major portion of what police services in Portola Valley are in terms of man hours. And so any thoughts that you guys have, or that the public at this meeting has, would be useful as well.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, that's obviously something we can discuss a little in item 6 and get some priorities, but also if you're intending to attend that meeting on the 26th, something which I will be trying to do, let's get our ideas ready to communicate.
And as I said, Carrie sent an email yesterday to PB Forum that had sort of more detailed questions and some prompts to say, here's some things to think about, and also methods for how to contact the town and get those messages in. So for sure, show up on the 26th if you have thoughts on this, but if you could get those ideas to us earlier, by submitting them to the town before that meeting on the 26th, then obviously that helps us digest them and integrate them and come up with a better overall answer.
There is another channel. Perhaps I will cut and paste that into an email to committee members, so that if you're not seeing that on the forum, I'll send that out to you privately.
And Ed, I see Carolyn's hand is raised.
Oh, thank you. Caroline, did you have a comment?
Good morning. Yes, I hope the sheriff is still there. I was just wondering how this works. So we pay the sheriff's department, and then they collect the citations. I hope that revenue goes back to the town, or do we pay double?
I believe most of the revenue goes to the court, actually. The amount collected from citations, I think maybe a very small amount comes back to the town, but primarily it goes to the cost of actually processing the citations.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
See, we were trying to find reasons, long-time residents have known the sheriff's department for a long time. Prior to 2015, we had the Sheriff Madison. We got all the reports, and since then, we've had one problem after another, making sure that the residents became resilient, because every time we did report unlawful and suspicious activity, nobody came. And so then the town decided to split that up. And so then there was no oversight of who submitted the calls and who came and why they didn't come. It's sad. And we kept on paying millions of dollars without seeing any results. We will definitely put our input in, but as you remember, in 2015, it became so devastating. We had so many not burglaries, but alarms with physical and just really, what was it, damage. And then the last one was even a sheriff who set off a second alarm and nobody investigated it. I mean, you know, it's stuff like that, and I hear it from all the residents. But if nothing is done, they just, you know, why should we spend our time showing up? It seems like a common routine now. We spend our time discussing the concerns. We spend our time on more money, trying to find solutions, and nothing gets done. So it's a sour moment for Portola Valley. We're not used to that. We're used to collaborate with ideas and collaborate with volunteers to come to solutions. Now we're just being laughed at, you know, when we come up. It's sad, but yeah, I will continue to participate.
Oh, thank you, Caroline. I would say again, the meeting on the 26th, there is an ideal opportunity, or you can put your thoughts in writing to the town through the links that were available on the forum. And that is, I think, a very good way to share your constructive ideas and your criticisms. So, okay, thank you. Let's return to our regular agenda. Item 5 is our public works update. Howard, if you'd be kind enough to continue, please.
Thank you. So on the public works update, just in general, we haven't had any major issues noted regarding traffic or parking on the public right of way. So I'll just go into just, let's see, signs on Portola Road, that's on the agenda. It's still in progress that we're going to comment on. I do want to note that, you know, I've noted less people, and I wanted to touch bases later on that. Let's see, the rapid flashing beacon project, that's still in progress with Krupka, and working on some base maps now. The speed survey is still in progress. Let's see, litter monitoring at various sites, that's still in progress, but we haven't noticed any out of the ordinary litter in areas. We've also kept monitoring Westridge Drive at Alamos and haven't really seen anything new there either on litter or parking. I wanted to move to the AT&T trailer at Westridge and Alpine. They have been doing some work out there, and I've checked in with AT&T to see any progress to date on moving that circuit and getting the trailer out of there. At the last time, you know, several months ago, they told us it was going to be 2-3 months. Well, it's 2-3 months has passed, so we're pinging them again. So they did fix a manhole that was out there that was buried, and they've leveled that and brought it up to grade. But we're going to still pester them about that.
Howard, on that, do they need a permit at some point if that trailer is there for too long? I mean, if it were like a residential thing, then we'd require them to do something about it. Or are they just there as long as they want to with whatever equipment they want?
No, we saw it as they do have an encroachment permit for all the work. They have an open encroachment permit for a bunch of work there, specifically the manhole too. So it could fall under that. But as for the trailer, typically we see that as emergency operations. In this case, they're abandoning the CEV underground vault. They have to move all the circuits up, and they're moving the circuits to either offsite or to other cabinets in the area, which is a positive thing for the town.
Yeah.
So it could see both ways because they do have some kind of easement there too. But I think if it remains there longer and becomes non-emergency, then the permit item can start, that question can pop up. But I sent off them an email yesterday asking status.
Got it. Yeah, I was just thinking from the point of view of encouraging them to prioritize it maybe and, you know, move it along.
That's a good thought. And
through the chair, I know the AT&T government rep fairly well, and I'd asked her 2 months ago what the status was, and she said that as of 2 months ago, 2 to 3 months, they thought it would be out there. The new infrastructure put in place I pinged them again yesterday and asked for a status update as well. And if I don't get it in the next couple of days, I will call her directly. Sorry for earlier.
Oh, that's quite all right. Yeah,
Uh,
please let us know with that. But I mean, it's obviously an important infrastructure item, so it has to get done whichever best way it has to be. We can't lose phone and internet, so that's just that.
I will say, I once went to talk to AT&T engineers and having worked for AT&T, I escalated up and asked people who their boss was. And once I,
Okay.
Kevin, could you hit mute?
and when I called AT&T, it was about something else. I think it was about internet service or something. But they said we just think of Portola Valley as a very small town. It's a very small population, and therefore it's not a high priority. And I think we need to say that it's a high priority. I mean, we need to escalate it up the management chain, otherwise things won't get done.
And that's been done twice now. So there's not the next layer is somebody that I probably can't even get a hold of.
Maybe it's Twitter. Maybe it's Twitter.
So Angela, I want to chime in also. So I've contacted layers and layers up to several layers up already. And we've written documented emails. I've been talking to about 5 people. We have tried hard, and I know Jeremy has reached out to his government official too, and I have reached out to our government official too. So it's gone pretty high, and we'll continue to do that too.
All right.
But I just do want to stress it's not something easy to remove the circuits out of a whole entire underground vault to other cabinets, because they were originally proposing to install another cabinet in the right of way, which would have been pretty not very aesthetically pleasing. So we'll continue to pester them. I'll continue. The school restarted, and as I indicated last month, we did a lot of inspections around the schools, and so we did a lot of the trail improvements or any tree trimming around the school, so that went fine. No complaints there. Road resurfacing, that's been something we've been concentrating in the last several weeks on, and last week we did about 15 streets sections as noted on the website. No really major complaints. The slurry seal part is the most invasive part. We did a lot of notifications, signs, pamphlets, lots of things on the internet and our newsletter repeatedly. So the slurry seal part is done now. That's the most invasive part. The next part is installing the striping and thermoplastic in the upcoming weeks. I did want to mention that we rolled the shoulders on Alpine Road. That's a commitment that we made a number of years ago for the bicyclists traveling closest to the shoulders. And so that was done too, and it does cost. Let's see. And I think that is it from during this time we had a Zots to Tots, and the sheriffs and volunteers helped out with that. We've had a number of events here at Town Hall. There's a concert and Zots to Tots, so there's a lot of things going around Town Hall, but didn't really cause anything traffic related. And one final thing I want to mention is I did have a brief meeting with the MROSD yesterday. They went out on RFP to get a traffic consultant concerning their potential new driveway or public access to the Hawthorne's property on across from Roberts there. So more to come on that. My main emphasis is essentially trying to find out and limit impacts to the residential streets there, and impacts to our Triangle Park, and impacts to our businesses and trails, both in equestrian traffic, pedestrian traffic, and parking and traffic movements. So I stress that a lot, and future involvement will involve the town, but also I stress the BBTS also. So I envision some kind of public or some type of collaboration with the BBT involving the BBTS. So that is my report. If there's any questions, let me know.
Through the chair, if I can just expand on Howard's last comments, as you can imagine, I've had separate conversations as well with Mid-Penn and stressed fairly unequivocally that this Hawthorne's project cannot induce additional parking issues in Portola Valley, and they need to take that very seriously. Thank you to the committee for identifying Pat as the liaison to MROSD. We've got a half a dozen committees that have identified liaisons. And last week, when the last committee let me know who that was, I sent it over to MROSD. And there will be separate meetings with those committee members and MROSD to talk about the respective issues. So let us know what you need from us as it relates to continuing to support that. But my unequivocal message has been, let's not turn this into Windy Hill.
Yep. I think that's a very good aim. I think in practice that might be a challenge to realize because people, when they come, and they're going to see parking, they're going to see an open lot right across the street from the place. They're going to see, I mean, I don't want to go into all the details here, but it's very easy to imagine the kind of the sort of the potential situations that might develop out of that. And if I would like to see if Mid-Penn have any sort of modeling of how they expect, open up a new thing, it's this size, how many extra visitors would they expect that to generate, and how, what their plan is to accommodate it, or what impact it's likely to have on the surrounding area. And that's the sort of questions I think are very worth asking them, even if they can't provide answers.
If you want to have questions, you can also feel free to email me too, so I'm aware of these questions. Me and Jeremy submitted some comments, initial comments and questions concerning this also. There hasn't been really, they didn't provide a plan. I haven't seen a plan that says these are the access they want, or this is the trail system.
Mm-hmm.
They're just basically starting the discussion. What the main reason for the meeting was to get from the town, I would say, free information. They wanted to see our traffic counts that we did in 2019, because that was pre-pandemic. We happen to have that information for them so they can compare, and potentially other traffic counts too. And then they want to also potentially see traffic studies that other developments have done in town also, such as, if there's a traffic study for Willow Commons, Stanford, and so on. And I have to check with the building and planning department to see if that could be shared. So their traffic engineering firm that they've brought on wants to gather all this information and just basic input first before they move on. But I just want to let everyone know there's not a plan or anything that I've seen that shows anything definite. So,
okay. I'm just sorry, Craig.
Go ahead.
Ask for my part. Are they willing to share who their traffic study consultant is, and whether they'd be willing to share the output of that initial process? So do we know who they engaged, and would they be willing to share with us what they think they find?
well, we do know who they engaged. It was a partnership, I think, Parisi Hunt, and we've worked with Parisi before at with Corte Madera and the Safe Routes to School coordinator at the time, Carrie Rust, on the crosswalk there that we installed a crosswalk with, and Shark's Teeth and brand new signs. So we work with them there. Whether they want to share or not, I can't speak for MROSD, because everything should go to MROSD first. But I would assume that there is some kind of public process.
Okay, thank you. Craig, please go ahead.
Yeah, MROSD has been very open so far with their process as they've been going through this, and they've taken the approach of having sort of very high level conceptual approach first, of understanding what all the pieces are, and then thinking through to somewhat more concrete sketch, and then they're planning to go to actual plans. And so they've been working through it in a very open way, very engaged with the public. They've had a number of public meetings. I went to, they had an open house or a tour of the property that they did a couple of. I went on one of those. One of the, very high level conceptual questions that they asked me at that meeting was, one of the thoughts that they've had is instead of the current location to enter the property that's across from Roberts, very conceptually, and not that they're necessarily contemplating it, but just evaluating it as a possible option. They asked me what I thought any issues might be of having the entrance just be immediately across from Portola Road, so turning the T junction into a full intersection there, and so having a stop sign controlling entering and exit, or somehow thinking through something like that for a traffic flow. So those are the kinds of thoughts that they're having in terms of what would make the minimum impact from whatever it is that they're doing. And so their traffic engineer, I think, is probably looking at this fairly comprehensively to understand what the traffic patterns are and what the impact of a number of different options for entering and exiting the site might be.
Okay, thank you. And I suppose germane to that is what number of visitor parking spaces they'd be looking to provide within the property as well.
Yeah, and while I was on site, we were looking at specifically, different possible areas where there might be parking and overflow parking. Obviously, they're trying to minimize the impact on the site itself, which they're trying to preserve as open space as much as possible. But it did seem like there was some reasonable opportunity for potentially a reasonable, a decent amount of parking, whether it's dedicated parking or potential overflow parking that's used less often, that may be less built out, let's call it. But they have, it's a fairly large site, and there are a couple of areas that are already moderately disturbed, let's say, where you could potentially put some parking in there, and it's really a matter for them of, as you say, doing all of the analysis to figure out what kind of demand there might be, and then figuring out how to satisfy that.
And through the chair, one other issue to note is that really use is going to be a driver of visitation. And there's going to be a diversity of opinion in Portola Valley, obviously, associated with what kind of use should be there. But to give an example, if Mid-Penn decides that this will be one of their few locations for dogs, that will mean more people coming. Although, I'm not in a position to take a position, I have indicated that, that's something for them to consider, is what kind of use they're going to have there, and how does that have a relationship to parking related issues. And they need to be open in their discussions with the community about what they intend to do. They have not made any decisions.
Okay, good. Please mention archery range with them many, many times.
Will do.
Thank you.
Oh, Ed, I just also wanted to remind everyone that I did remind MROSD of the trail request that we submitted years ago.
Yes.
To them to move and widen the trail along Portola Alpine Road.
With the implication we can extend that as a means to improve access on and down from the school for those school times.
Yeah, that was part of the site visit as well. We walked along the trail along the whole frontage of the property and talked about, resetting the trail to be onto Mid-Penn's property and improving it, potentially making it a multi-use trail and so on. So that was definitely part of what they're thinking about.
There was a staff to staff conversation, I want to say 2 months ago, on this as well, right before their MROSD's lead left. So they have a brand new lead, and I've got a tickler in my file for them just to ask where that was. But it was the first time in 6.5 years of me being with the town that they requested of us a meeting on that particular issue. So I found that to be a positive development.
Great. Okay. Thank you. That's a very good update. I think, Howard, do you have anything further from your list of goodies? I don't know, there was something else we discussed yesterday. Maybe not. I'm sorry, Howard, is that your update complete?
Yes, the update's complete. I'm here for questions.
Thank you very much. I don't have anything further. We have another couple of things on the agenda for the regular ongoing business. So that's great. Thank you. Let's move on to
And
section
I see
6.
Carolyn raised her hand again.
Beg your pardon, Caroline, very quickly. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much for the report. I was hoping that Mr. Howard could add some more details for the minutes, because we were told that the traffic study that had been approved in 2019, and as you know, we had a budget of 285, that it's now back into the design phase, and that he only anticipates that this will be ready, the design phase, not even the actual work, in summer 2023. And then my other concern is, which we have stressed several times over the years, don't only use 2019 as your data resources. So many things have changed in the town of Portola Valley, so it is important to have accurate facts and accurate data. Thank you.
Can I answer that, Ed?
Please do.
Okay. So concerning the counts, using accurate data and accurate, yes. As it relates to MROSD, their team just asked for, they are going to do their own counts. And they were asking kind of where should they do them, and input from me. And of course, they're going to have their own input too. So they are going to do their own counts. We also did counts about a month ago also. So we have counts for 2022. And I only brought up the 2019 counts because that is a pre-pandemic, so that it's more information for their analysis to go, okay, did the pandemic affect traffic here? So I think it's a positive thing to have all these data sets. So I hope I answered your question on that one, Caroline.
Yes, could you also please confirm the details on the traffic design?
Yes, so moving to that,
For the minute?
I know you indicated that there is a budget there, and the whole entire program from the 2019 Crop Cut budget included many intersections. And I believe, if I can recall, about approximately 15, and we did 9 of them. And there are things that still goes through the public process, such as the rapid flashing beacons. We always, it's a process of design and looking at all the alternatives. The reason I know that you said that there was $285,000 budgeted there. Typically on a project, we would budget for the design, and then once we finish the design, we would budget for the construction. And as I mentioned, the reason why we budgeted for the full amount in there is because we went out for a grant with the county, and we got the grant, and we were reflecting it in the budget of that money. So, but typically that doesn't happen. So it's a positive things that we got the grant and we are reflecting it in the budget, and that's why it's there. It's not a obligation to have it done right away just because we budgeted there. We still need to go through the public process of design and bring it to the BBTS. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. That's a good clarification. Caroline, does that answer your question?
No, really, but it's some explanation. I think after the meeting or during the meeting of last week, I was promised to get a full explanation. You know, what went. We don't see that in the financial documents, and so it would be clear. It would be nice to see a consistent explanation and see it on paper. That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. No further questions.
Yeah, sorry, Ed. To answer that, Caroline, you can call me and we could talk about it again. I know we met with Jeremy also, and we talked about this subject. So we can meet offline or call. Just I could provide you with any details. I know that you wrote to the town manager again, and there is I'm assuming there's going to be there's an acknowledgement of that email, and there's going to be a timeline to respond to you. But if you want a quick detail, you can call me after the meeting also. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Howard. All right, we've a few minutes left. Let's continue through our ongoing committee business. I hope committee members, item A here, have had a chance to look at the proposed planning for additional signage on, oh, wait a minute, I can't read. My first item A here is the review the residents' request to remove the redwood tree that is at the north end, if that's the right orientation on the compass, of the north entrance of Brookside Drive at Portola Road. Do I describe that correctly, Jeremy?
Yeah, I think you got it perfectly, and I can pull up a map. I'm not sure if there's any residents. Cornelia, you may be here to speak on that matter. I don't see the primary resident that I've been speaking with, but I can kick us off if that's okay with you, Ed.
Please do.
All right, the first thing, let me pull up a map just so folks know exactly where we're talking about.
Excellent.
All right. Can people see my shared screen?
Yes, that's good.
All right, excellent. So this is Brookside Road, as you all know. There is a redwood tree located right where my cursor is. It's on town-owned property. It's a large redwood tree. It's actually growing on top of some kind of wall or retaining wall. So this is the location. I have visited the site a few times. Howard's been out there. We had our traffic consultant go out as well. And I'll summarize what I understand to be the concern. If you are attempting to make a turn, either a right or left-hand turn out of the western northern side of Brookside, the issue is that residents can't see around that corner, that the redwood blocks their view. I understand from the resident that I was speaking with that there's broad support for those who live on that side of Brookside for the trees removal, and it changes a bit moving to this. Thank you, Craig. As you get to the southern side of Brookside, it's a little less unanimous on its removal. It is a challenging location, although I don't know that we can technically say its removal is necessary for line of sight, because you can, depending on your vehicle, too. I think that's a huge issue. Some vehicles have better line of sight in that location. It's certainly a challenging if you're trying to creep out in front of the tree, because then you're getting into what the bike lane would be. So that's a huge challenge. So the request came in to us, and I've been told of anecdotal stories related to certainly close calls, and maybe more than that in that location. Although I don't know that I know of a specific incident that's happened recently. That doesn't mean it hasn't happened related to that location. But it's a big enough tree in a prominent location that staff felt it made some sense to bring it to the committee for a recommendation on moving forward. I understand, Howard, that the Conservation Committee did not recommend its removal, but they obviously have different things that they're looking at. Is that your recollection, Howard?
I can't recall. I'll have to double check with them.
Okay, I think that's correct. So that's a report. So we're looking for some recommendation guidance here, and then based on that, we will move forward.
Thank you. I mean,
one other thing I forgot to say, Ed, there's probably some more outreach we need to do. One of the reasons I wanted to put this on a public agenda was to try to get more people out, and I asked folks in the one neighbor that I've been working with to disseminate it. So I'm not sure that happened. I know he was traveling.
Okay, I mean, that would be good to have, and anything that we try. Nobody, I suspect, is going to pick up the phone and say, call the tree company in the next week. So if this is reviewed again at our next meeting, that would be a typical pattern. But yeah, I mean, I was going to say, I visited the location. I can see both ways. I don't like to see a tree removed. On the other hand, I believe that tree's got a kind of split at the top, and it's, although has been given a fairly good bill of health, it does, depending on how you approach that exit from Brookside, it can obscure your view or cause you to pull further out cautiously into the shoulder lane there, which is used de facto by cyclists. I mean, as somebody who rides home that way nearly every day, I know you can pick up a reasonable amount of speed through that section because you're coming on the downhill from the intersection with Willowbrook. And so, you know, on balance, I think if there were no other considerations, there would be a reasonable case for taking some action there. And I think also that might also be justified if there's a consideration with branch overhang and fire safety and those sort of mitigation elements there. But this is something that does need to go around the rounds with conservation and all those other guys as well. So, but I'd like the other committee members to weigh in their thoughts as much as possible and don't just be guided by what I say. So I see Angela, you've a hand up, and then
Yes.
Cornelia, I'll get to you.
I would say that cycling down that road, I am absolutely terrified every time and put my brakes on to make sure that no cars are coming out of Brookside. If I were the town, I would chop it down without public comment. It is in the town's right of way. The town can do that. It is a danger to cyclists coming down that hill, and I would cut it out immediately, the tree.
Thank you. Very succinct. Cornelia, I see you have a hand up. Please go
Thank
ahead.
you, Ed. Jeremy was right. I do live at the northern part of the street, and I would say that it's almost unanimous here that we remove the tree on the northern side because it affects us all on a daily basis. I'm also, or I was until neck injuries, an avid cyclist, and I would completely agree with what Angela said. People tend to come, it's a downhill and it's also a curve, so it's sort of a blind curve. A lot of people who are cycling from outside the area, you know, aren't really aware that there really is a hidden driveway before you get to this, but it's not a marked street, unlike the southern entrance, which has much more obvious entrance and also has a sign to it. We don't. And so they come barreling along there. One of the family, Dan Cornu, by the way, who originally submitted the request, is working in Paris now and had unfortunately a conflict. And he was going to try and get home for this meeting, but I don't know if he'll make it. But he was the one that collected a lot of the information. There has been at least one accident, and it was quite severe. It was one of my neighbors who had a car, couldn't see past the tree. The picture is actually a little misleading because it made the tree look a little smaller than it is when you're sitting in a car. And the tree is huge. And I absolutely love trees. We bought our place because, in fact, there are a ton of redwood trees in the back. But I also have a lot of experience with those redwood trees and trying to maintain them. And when you have a split top or a split trunk, as it is quite an issue, particularly in storms. I don't know why the town would want the liability after having it officially. I don't know why Jeremy doesn't know this, and I don't know how somebody reported it, but several neighbors have said they reported the accident because I believe the town was sued on the accident. What happened was somebody, you know, pulled out, couldn't see, then pulled out farther into that bike lane, and which isn't, of course, an official bike lane, which was what saved them in the lawsuit. And a bicyclist came barreling down there, having not seen them, and literally hit their car, and the bicyclist went flying over the top of the car. And so the driver was sued. The owner of the property on which it looks like the tree is located, but actually it's town property, was sued. And my understanding was that the town was sued, but maybe I'm wrong about that. And ultimately the lawsuit wasn't successful because it isn't effectively a bike lane, I believe. Anyway, that was one clear accident. I've lived here 12 years, and in prior years, there were 2 other car accidents when we, in the first several years that we lived here. I can't tell you whether they were bike related, but there were two frequent, one guy, maybe because somebody was coming out of the street, and they were coming down that curve very quickly, lost control of the car and hit a tree on the other side. I have begged the police, the sheriff's office multiple times. I've stopped and talked to sheriffs on many occasions to put in a motorcycle cop, and because I routinely will follow people, I'll pull out right after somebody who's been flying around there, and I'll catch up to them and they're going 50 to 55, even though the speed limit is 35. So it's extremely dangerous when you're trying to make even a right-hand turn, let alone a left-hand turn. And a lot of people here just make the right-hand turn and then turn around again and do a U-turn on Georgia Lane if they have to go north. The other thing in terms of redwood trees is, and one of the reasons I think it's a particularly unsafe area for it is, we've seen our redwood trees are healthy, but because the creek is so much lower there and there's much less groundwater than there has been, the trees are stressed all around us. And what happens is, frequently with redwood trees, they're known as widow makers for a reason. The trees break off as the branches get higher, get heavier over time. They break off halfway off, or you can even have healthy branches, which has happened to us 2 or 3 times in our yard. Healthy branches, for no reason, just seem to break and land in the yard. And that seems to be a particularly unsafe area where that would happen. And the town really isn't maintaining the tree. We've ended up doing something which isn't very pretty, but because of the danger of all these branches, and the corners who have a lot of redwoods have done the same thing. We've cut a bunch of the branches off halfway to limit the risk of having the branches drop. The last thing I would say is that the family who lives on the south corner there, who they both work, so they couldn't be here. One of them works in the schools, have said that 3 to 4 times a day they hear honking and screaming and things like that from bicyclists coming around the turn there, and that there are near misses on an incredibly frequent basis. So they would really like to see it removed as well, because it's obviously, they have 3 kids, and when they're pulling out of there, they're often in a van and it's harder. What happens is, we just repaved the road. The road goes down for to have water, collect there and then be able to go into drains. And so you go down before you go up again on Portola Road. And if you have, as I do, a hybrid or even an electric car, your car doesn't catch quite as quickly. So that also provides, an additional issue of danger, because not only can you not see well, you have a very short period of time. So if you took out the tree, I wouldn't say every single car would be able to see that much better. If you have a particularly small car, like one of those really low BMWs or something like that, the tiny ones. But, for my car, it would make a huge difference in terms of having an uninterrupted line of sight, and then having a much better idea, not having to pull out as far, but having a much better idea if a car's coming. We all leave both windows open when we're coming out of the and turn off radios or anything like that, because it's just been so dangerous. And I've almost been T-boned there on multiple occasions, and I've almost hit bikes or had bikes hit me on many occasions, and had people like screaming at me. So I really would encourage you to think about it seriously. I know the issue with the Conservation Committee did not come up because we all got an email from Nona saying that the meeting had been postponed until the end of this month. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cornelia. Any further comments from
Ed?
committee members? Gary, yes.
Yeah, I hate to interrupt. That was an important comment. I have to leave the meeting, and I just wanted to make sure that my comment about the signs that I emailed to you and Howard, did you receive that?
I believe I did. Was that, you sent that out last night?
Yeah, I emailed you last night, and my only comment was on Krupka's signs to consider not implementing number 1, 2, and 3 right now, because the parking there is quite orderly, and I worry about establishing an official another parking place in town with 3 more signs. So just for you to consider.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry to have interrupted
Thanks, Gary.
your conversation.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I just had a question about, on the redwood tree, what the future of the tree is if we don't remove it. Redwood trees, in my experience, just tend to keep getting bigger and bigger and fatter and rootier as time goes on. And that's to some degree often different when you have something like a retaining wall there. But on the other hand, my experience is that the redwood tree versus retaining wall, over the long term, the redwood tree wins. Has anybody looked at that? I don't know, if anybody's thought about not just the current situation from the tree, but if we were to leave it, what's it going to do 10, 15, 20 years from now?
Thank you. That's a good comment, good viewpoint.
Do you want me to?
Else? Anyone else have a comment or a response to Craig before we move on?
Well, I'll just say that,
I've got a comment too.
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Angela, I can go after.
So I can tell you, we've got a redwood tree in our driveway, and redwood trees tend to slip a little bit, but their roots get very large. We now have a big hump in our driveway. It has gone through our electrical wires, so we don't have a light, which I think we're not supposed to have a light in our driveway, but we never asked. But anyway, the light is broken, but the redwood tree has very destructive roots, and I will say that with climate change, they are dying. That is not in an area where there's a lot of fog. So that's another reason I would have it chopped down instantly, and don't mess around with it. It's dangerous.
Thank you.
I was just going to say that, Howard, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I'm not aware of a program that the town has to review the status of significant trees, with lack of a better term, in the town's right of way for long-term viability. It tends to be much more reactive process. A tree or trees will be, we'll either hear it from a resident or we'll see something on our own. A good example are that line of redwoods that is near Ford Field that started to die because of water issues, and that went through a process because people were concerned about that. Given that we can certainly identify particular trees, right? There's certain trees that wouldn't have the same issue, an oak or something else, but we don't have a current program as such right now.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
I see Carolyn's hand is up too.
Yes, I saw that. Thank you. Carolyn, did you have a comment on this very briefly, because we are beginning to run out of time?
Thank you very much. No, I want to thank the residents for being persistent and give a full explanation of what's been going on for years. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, perhaps, the second element of my agenda item here on this was to propose what we should do, and I think it seems from the voices we've heard that we would support a recommendation to remove the tree. Do I have a second on that proposal, please?
Yes,
Okay, then anybody has,
I recommend removing the tree.
okay. I don't know.
I would
Kevin,
agree.
You would agree, Gary, thank you. Kevin, do you have anything to say on this? I know it might be hard for you to hear us. Okay, I think with that, we do at least have a proposal and a support from 2 committee members. So
Thank you, really appreciate it. So we'll reach out to the conservation chair this week and check in with her to see if she needs to reschedule something. We've gotten some feedback, I think, from a couple members that we asked to go out. And if that's not necessary, we'll move forward. We'll make sure that we'll work with the neighbors. Cornelia, I may reach out to you just to make sure that everybody's got the official notification on what we're doing next.
Great, thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you.
I just-
Last item on our regular committee business agenda here is the, actually, it's not the last item, is it? I can't get everything on one small laptop screen here. Oh, no, I've closed it. That's just great. People like me shouldn't have computers. Right. This is proposal to support and recommend adoption of the Krupke Consulting Plan for additional signage at Portola Road and Windy Hill. And I hope all of you have had a chance to look at the map and the, I will say, draft plan from Krupke Consulting to add additional signage on it's at the north side of Portola Road, as we've discussed, to give more protection and safety along the sight line formed, or the reduced sight line formed by the bend in the road there. So please, I would encourage anybody who has something to say on this to make their comment before I say anything. I don't want to be seen to influence the committee in any way. So, show of hands, a comment, or who would like to speak first? Anybody? Angela, I know you and I were involved in this very early on.
Yes, because I've
visiting
been
the site.
involved in it so long, I would recommend we adopt it. So I'm biased.
Thank you, as am I. Gary, do you have any comment on this? Gary Haynes?
Well, I did take a brief minute to look at the study. I mean, I think the things that were suggested there are certainly appropriate with regards to, controlling the parking and so forth. I just, I do worry about the total number of signs and the visual effects it's going to create on the area. So I'm kind of split down the middle, but I think it's been a battle for a long time to do something at that area, and nothing to date has been successful. So this may have to be the next step.
Thank you. Craig, I see your hand up.
I have just one technical question, maybe for Howard. I believe on the existing park off pavement sign, we had to quote what municipal code section it was that allowed that to be enforceable on the sign. And I don't see that on the signs here, but on the other hand, they're very sort of small, low resolution. So maybe the intention to put that thing in there that says civil code section 32.7, whatever it is. But if that is necessary on the signs, I assume that we'd put that on there on the park off pavement bit so that it can be enforced.
Yes.
I believe actually though, Howard, the proposal was to use regulation, no parking signs. Is that correct?
No, I'm not talking about the no parking, the part where it says parking is allowed, but park off pavement.
I beg your pardon.
To
Yes,
enforce the park off pavement bit.
Thank you. Yeah, that would be important to add that wording. Yeah.
These are templates. The typically sometimes even the red white signs have the section down.
Code, yeah.
So, but I will mention that to reflect that on the template also.
Okay.
And Ed, did you want to add? I didn't get an email from Gary last night. When did you want to read off his email?
I did, yes. Thank you for reminding me. I will read that comment. He was interested to comment upon. Find my emails here. Said Howard and Ed, I think the signage is generally fine. I suggest that we discuss leaving out the signage of the small area near Westridge, signs 1, 2, and 3, to delay the establishment of this as an official parking area until we think we really have to. And what he's talking about is there is a small area toward town center that is currently excluded from parking by the signage we have, but that had been considered. Thank you for whoever's screen sharing there. There we are. So 1, 2, and 3, and that is approaching towards the entrance to Stone Gate. Down at that, what would you call it? western southern end of the map, southwestern end of the map. And he's saying, let's just leave that for the time being and don't add any signage there.
Well, my comment would be that on Saturday cars were parking there. So his thesis that maybe they only come at a busy time. I didn't see them on Sunday morning, but I did see them on Saturday there. So I think people are still using that area and we should have the signage there.
Okay, thank you. I think my comment would be perhaps I hope we could. I'm very actually neutral on that particular point, but I'm very strong on the 7, 8, and 9 position on the bend round to approaching Willowbrook, going in the opposite direction. My primary concern here is that there is a potential safety risk with sight lines, bicyclists, car doors, parking, cars leaving and entering a not really well controlled or paved parking area, and not always complying with the park on or off pavement. And so that's where I would like to see the restriction be the strictest. Do I have comments from anybody else, please? Okay, perhaps discussion of what our next steps on this would be. We could propose to accept it wholesale. We could propose to accept it with revisions. Looks like that might be the way to go. And perhaps some guidance from Howard. I know there's a discussion of what the next step, even if we just rubber stamp this and send it on to the next level. Howard, I know you had some questions. There were some questions raised over whether this needed to go through planning commission and other parts of the town small intestine.
Yes, so on my memo to the council in October of 2021, I indicated that this was part of one half of the project. The other part of the project was on Willowbrook that we got done in last November, and then we would go to come up with a design for this. I'm working with Krupka, and that the design would go to the committee for review and comment. And once we receive those comments, then we would determine if there was further review needed from any other bodies, such as the ASCC and the council, which I will discuss with Jeremy on after this meeting once we receive comments. I've also submitted the drawing to the Building and Planning Department to help us determine if ASCC review is needed, or ASCC review or a discussion with the chair.
Thank you. All right. Quite a few moving pieces in there, but it would be great if we could get some of those resolved by the next BPPS meeting. Is that possible?
I believe that is the intention. Now I can go back and say the process was, it went to the BPTS. The BPTS says XYZ. I will take then this potential design back and talk with Laura Russell in the Building and Planning Department, and also talk to Jeremy as to what steps are needed to implement this.
Thank you. Seems constructive. So committee members, perhaps if I propose that we accept this pending those reviews, would that be an acceptable path forward for the rest of our committee folks?
Yes, I think that would be fine.
Craig, I see you have a hand up.
I just have two, well, I guess it's more thoughts / questions / things for Howard to think about. One is, have all the property owners, and I'm especially thinking about the one at the corner of Stonegate, has it been shared with them? Especially if that there's going to be, I know we've heard a lot from the neighbors around the corner across from Willowbrook, and so they're probably somewhat aware of this because they've been in the process all along. That property owner down at the corner of Stonegate may or may not have any clue. And while they certainly know that there are probably people parking there occasionally when there's overflow, they may not be aware the town's formally thinking of making that a parkable area and putting the signs up there. So that's one thought, and it might be good to engage with that neighbor, especially if the committee is considering, thoughts along the lines of what Gary submitted about potentially, delaying or postponing or not putting that lower area in. The other thing is that, Howard, if you do bring this to other committees, they've been less involved in this process and they're less familiar with it. I mean, they'll be somewhat familiar with it. But in addition to this diagram that's showing what signs will go in, it would probably be useful to show what signs will be coming out. Because I think some of the existing signs, some of these signs are already there. Some of them are replacing potentially signs that are already there. And so just making it clear, what the net change in signage is, because I think there's the net change is actually pretty small relative to what your sort of appears to be here.
Yes, Craig, I would agree with all those.
Okay.
And thanks for bringing up the public engagement part, which I didn't mention, but it would typically, when we do this, and if it does go to the ASCC, I think we've come to the point where probably we should notify our typical notification. Residents affected within 300 feet need to be noticed. So this is
I'd say even if you don't judge that it should go to ASCC, it might be, the immediately adjacent neighbors, and maybe you could go to the 300 feet and just let those neighbors know. Might be good, even if it's not going to ASCC, if they have any comments for you or for this committee.
Absolutely. Yes. That's what I meant, is that we do, regardless of the ASCC, we once we received comments from BBTS, the thought process that we would start moving forward toward implementation, and part of implementation is the usual notice of the 300 feet.
And through the chair, one additional action we can take. This is, although clearly the neighbors will have a great interest in this, the community at large will have an interest in this as well. So we will ensure that in a future newsletter or other email forms that we put something out to the broader community. I don't think it rises to a news item, but we'll use other tools to do that. So when it gets to the next step, we'll push it out so people can participate.
And
great. I could, very much support all of the comments that have just gone by. Thank you. I'm sorry, didn't mean to cut you off there.
Oh, no, I also agree with it. If and when it does go to ASCC, we'll provide all the details, Craig, to them of what's in, what's out, what do the final signs actually look like. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Howard. Thank you, everybody. I think that is a generally accept pending and promote pending revisions, and to keep this process moving along, please. Do I have the support for that proposal from the committee members?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Ed, can I?
Yes, Howard, please.
I want to clarify, did we make a decision yet on Gary's comments?
We did not, but I mean, we have a general sort of overhang here of pending revisions and review. So I think I'd like to include those within that. That's perfectly reasonable. Is that acceptable to other people who just agreed to do everything, or do we need to revise?
Oh, maybe you can state your.
Yeah, let me read Gary's email one more time.
No. I wanted you
I'm
to
sorry.
state the agreement, what we've agreed to.
So that we agree, we agreed to accept.
Do we have to vote?
It's a proposal, so I think it just needs to be seconded. Is that correct? I always forget the procedure. I'm not good at procedures.
It would be good to have the whole committee vote. I mean, I heard 4 people in support, so I think at this point it's really just clarifying exactly what the motion was that 4 people were supporting, and so getting everybody to agree that they agreed to what they agreed would probably be a good procedure.
Absolutely. So let me try and state this as clearly as I can. That would be to accept the proposal pending revisions reflecting concerns raised by Gary Nielsen, Police Commissioner, and the review of the planning commission and the town's view on whether this needs to be reviewed by other town bodies and commissions.
I second that, Ed.
Thank you. Is that clear enough for everyone to
Yes.
form an agreement? Thank
Who seconded it?
you. Kevin,
Kevin. Oh, it didn't sound like Kevin. Okay, good.
do I have support from you, Angela, and you, Gary?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. That's very clear. Okay, I think that's as far as we need to go with that item. The last thing on our ongoing committee business was this opportunity for a sheriff's department workshop. I know that's been rumbling around for a few weeks, possibly months now. Do we have any clearer idea on what that might be, or is that something that could come out of the discussion on the 26th?
Well, it's not any, nothing's changed since the last conversation. This is something that has come up between, came up with the mayor and myself with the incoming sheriff, Christina Corpus. So this would happen after her ascension.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, what I'd hope to start scheduling what would be useful today if the committee wishes to have this discussion today. It's not necessary today, it can be at another meeting before the end of the year, would be to get some information about what the committee would like to see in a workshop. If there's data, if there's information, if there's anything else like that. I think we understand the general parameters, but the notion here, just for the committee as a whole, was that the committee could sit down with Captain Corpus, then Sheriff-elect Corpus, and her team to go through the myriad issues that are of concern.
Okay, I have to go. So I don't know if anyone else has to go, but I actually have a meeting at 10 o'clock in Palo Alto.
Okay.
Ed, why don't we schedule this for November, if that's okay with you? We can put it back on the agenda.
Okay, that's great. Very good. Thank you. Craig, very quickly.
Yeah, very quickly. I think one thing that would be good for this committee to consider is, I think often this committee has questions, and then the sheriff's deputies will go away and collect data and report back, and then by the time we sort of get around to thinking about what that means, several meetings and several months have gone by. And I think it might be good if we're having this workshop, and let's say it'll be happening in January, February-ish, maybe, when the new sheriff is installed. If we work back in time, it would be good to have questions that we'll want answers to at that meeting, or discussion of at that meeting, asked ahead of time, to allow them to actually prepare and bring that information with them to the meeting. Because otherwise we'll be there in the meeting, ask questions, and they'll say, well, I don't know, I'll get back to you. So, the more we can think about it ahead of time, of what do we want to think about, what should they be looking into, what kind of information would we want to be the basis of that discussion at that meeting, to help everybody be prepared for that meeting, to make it be as productive as it can be.
Okay, thank you. That's something we could do. Perhaps maybe form a subcommittee to compile those and collate the things, put something out on the forum and ask that question and all those other things.
Yeah, so I think that should be a goal maybe for the November meeting, is to figure out what that set of stuff is we want to ask, so that we can all be prepared when the meeting comes in the new year.
Good, thank you.
I just like to reiterate what Craig is saying, just that kind of pre-information help would be, or a question would be helpful, because we're not going to have all that data sets before you're prepared in an impromptu meeting. So,
yep, of course. Yeah, thank you, Patrick. That's helpful. Right, I think it's important now we sort of bring this to a close. I've got things to do, and I'm in an office here where everybody walks through and sees me not doing my job. So, because there's a big window in front of me, you can't see. The last thing, events. We don't have any events, I believe, upcoming, but I did want to raise an enormous thank you to everybody who volunteered, and to the town support, and to the sheriff's department support, for the excellent event that we had with Tots to Tots. I think that went very smoothly. There are some fine details that I think need filing and honing here and there for next time. But I think that served as a really good model, as we did last year, for running an event. it was great to see Alpine Road just full of people.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, so thank you everybody for that. Yes, everybody was a little wheel in that big machine that made it happen. Thank you again.
Yeah, and I was by the finish line where the traffic was being diverted up and over Westridge, and seeing the interactions between the sheriff's deputies there and motorists and cyclists. And I thought that you guys did a great job there. So thanks a lot to all the folks from the sheriff's department who came out for that, and the work that they did. It was the kind of situation where you have a cyclist coming in and you're telling them, instead of the nice flat easy loop around Portola Valley, they have to go over Westridge, and it all went pretty well. So thank you.
Great, thank you. And with that, unless there's anything further, I declare our meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Our next regularly scheduled meeting will be 2nd of November, 8:15 via Zoom, I believe.
Would be 60.
Thanks, Ed.
And then
Thank you very much.
Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank you.
I
See you later.
agree.